What's up everybody, Glitchhogger here. Today I'm going to be giving you a full comprehensive guide into Inscryption's bonus mode, Kaycee's mod. Now this is a very challenging mode where you have to complete run after run with ever increasing challenge modifiers. I fully completed every level and challenge, so hopefully through my trial and error struggles, I can help you have an easier time with this mod. So, whether you're new to Kaycee's mod or stuck on a level, I have something for you. There will be no story spoilers, but some of the tips and tricks may reveal certain unlockable items, cards, or puzzle solutions. So if you want to avoid all that and give it a try for yourself, come back when you get stuck. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and with that, let's jump in. So the very first thing you need to do before trying to do anything else is completing all the painting puzzles in Kaycee's mod. There are 3 total, and all you need to do is place the card shown in the painting on your board. What the opponent has on their side doesn't matter, only your side needs to match. This may seem difficult at first, but there are some tricks to help with this and also the mod itself. So the first thing you need to know is that you can return to the title screen and then continue the Kaycee mod run to reset the battle you're on or the path that you chose. This way you can redo a battle until you win, or choose another path if the first path didn't have what you wanted or needed. You can also do this at the start of a new map or at the very start of the first map, and it will reset the entire map. So you can look ahead to see if you want to reset certain things and just reset and remix the whole map. As long as you do it right at the beginning before you click X and go to the next spot. Rarely do you get the cards you need for the painting off the rip, so most likely you're going to have to play through the run a bit to gather the 2 cards you need. So only focus on getting the cards you need for the painting for now. You can even do with no challenges activated, as it's pretty much the same difficulty as the story mode. As soon as you start, look at the painting, see what you need, go back to the table and spend your pelts to hopefully get at least one of the cards in the painting. If you don't get at least one, you may want to purposely die in the next battle so that you can reset. If you don't have 1 life on though, you're going to need to die twice, which can be a bit annoying and tedious. You also may want to do that if the card it's asking you to get is a high blood cost, as those would be harder to play, but that's not necessary, you can still pull it off. If you end the run manually though, from the pause menu, you'll only get 1 pelt instead of 2, and if you do it twice in a row, you're not going to get any pelts. So until you purposely die again, or just die regularly. So keep that in mind. So just let yourself lose in battle so you can get to 2 pelts. It'll be easier on you. Once you get at least 1 card off the jump, just play normally and use the clover at every card point on the path to try and roll your card. You're also going to want to trim your deck a bit so you can actually draw and play the correct cards. You can use the hook to pull the opponent's card to your side, and if it's the same, it will still count, but that's very situational and most likely not going to happen on your attempts. Once you're done, you'll have 3 new items that will appear throughout all your future runs, giving you powerful options in battles. Secondly, if you're just starting out, you need to know which challenges to choose. You only have to turn on a certain number to progress up a level, and with progression you unlock more challenges but also starter decks, and some of the decks are a lot better than others, so you really want to be able to get to them and use them before you tackle the harder challenges. Now this is subjective, but the easiest challenges in my opinion are getting rid of the clover, fishhook, and pelts costing more. You can pretty much run all of these on any run without really making things harder for yourself, as the pelts are pretty much just a burden, and the fishhook can be replaced by another useful item in your backpack. It's better than just hanging on to the fish hook for most of the game, just to get new items instead. The hardest challenges, however, are going to be all totem battles, all boss totems, the grizzly wall, and 1 life, as this just makes fights harder and higher stakes. In 1 life, you will also never get the smoke card during a boss battle. You're also guaranteed to have to use the main menu option to retry battles, unless you're just insanely good. However, 1 life is worth the most points besides the grizzly. So you can reset battles. You may actually want to play around with this one, as boss battles are always 1 life anyway. The only real problem is that there's 1 or 2 regular battles that can be really tricky, so I'm going to go over those later. But they can definitely cost you a run if you're not prepared. So when it comes time to add more challenges, I personally found success and therefore recommend trying to stick to tip scales, no boss rares, and aqua scrolls. However, aqua scrolls you won't get till way later, so you might have to supplement that with a 1 life or something else. Now, unless you have a habit of using scrolls to block, the aqua scrolls won't bother you much, as you'll just be sacrificing them right away anyway. The tip scales is easy to overcome by just adding an extra damage to 1 of your good cards. The boss rare is a little more tricky, but you can still get rares from the map, either from the trial map point or even the boulder. However, if you're on the boulder and you get a pelt, they're all going to be a pelt. You can't reset it. Every time you hit a boulder, it's going to be a pelt if that's what you got the first time you tried it. Now, so that can be negated with the rare card one. The wild cards are going to be the 2 stronger enemies, the annoying challenge and the 1 life. I found myself avoiding these because 1, most of my strategies relied on the starter decks, so I didn't like having the annoying perk where everything in front of it got an extra power, because I pretty much just held on to them most of the game. You can get rid of them and like mix up your deck and get new cards, but that's going to take you most of the run, so it's really not worth all that extra effort. Now, if you can one-shot battles, the stronger enemies challenge may not matter as much, but then you're relying heavily on drawing the proper cards to one-shot, and that'll put you at the whims of RNG more so than other strategies. Now, if you find yourself running for many turns, then it's going to be even more challenging, because the more turns you run, the more enemies and the harder they're going to be. If you can get through the battles really quickly, then you won't have to face the extra enemies. But usually it's going to take a couple turns and you're going to end up having to fight more, so it's just really not worth it unless you really are confident you can one-shot or even 2-shot. Finally, as I said, the 1 life challenge can actually be preferable if you can avoid some of these tougher challenges. Now, the 2 starter decks you'll probably want to use are the Mantis God one here or the Gek one here. I personally found the most success with the Gek deck. The benefit of using the Mantis though is the ringworm ready to go for that first fire pit that usually pops up on the map. And then that's the easy level up for the Mantis after you kill the campers. Since it's triple stack, even at 2 attack it can one-shot, even with tip scales on. However, I found relying too heavily on this card made for some tough situations where I had nothing to put out, because either I lost it or I couldn't draw it. Especially with the 2 ringworms, they're basically dead weight and useless beyond sacrificing them at the campfires. And they cost blood to get out, so they're not even good blockers. Now the Gek deck may look like trash at first, but it has 3 free-to-play cards in it, and you can level up the Gek just as quickly as the Mantis, but put it out as soon as you draw it, giving you more opportunity to use it whenever you need it. Then once you duplicate the card, you'll have tons of freebies in your hands that you can just play as soon as you get them. The tadpole transforms into a frog, so it's not completely useless after the first turn at least. And you can easily sacrifice them for other blood cards. So all you need to do now is put Unkillable or the Mouse Sigil on the Gek. You can also do that for the Mantis. Really any of your good cards, you want to put either of the sigils on. I don't know how to pronounce the Mouse Sigil, so that's what we're going to be calling it. It's the one that duplicates your card when you play it. Alright, so once you got all that done, you can easily pick one of these up at the first trader. There's usually a trader at the start of every map. It's not always, but most of the time there is one. So look for those sigils there, or look for it in a card drop. They aren't that rare to find, because they're not rare cards. They can drop anywhere pretty much. And then just sacrifice it to the Gek, and you're good to go. Now we get into the actual gameplay tips and tricks. First, if you don't know, if you feed a ringworm or anything with touch of death to the campers, they will die and be dead for the rest of the run. Each fire has a maximum of 2 uses. So if you use it twice and they don't eat the creature, they don't eat your ringworm or your touch of death creature, consider if you haven't killed them yet, then you can still exit to the start screen, reload, and put in something else, and you'll be able to upgrade that twice, and they will not eat it. However, if they do eat something, the game is going to save automatically and you won't be able to reset it anymore. So just keep that in mind. But you do want them to eat the ringworm or the touch of death, as they'll be dead, and then you'll be able to use the fire twice every time you land on it. Next, you don't want to load up your deck with a whole bunch of stuff. I made this mistake a lot in the beginning. Just focus on making the cards you have or ones you picked up in the beginning good. If you do find yourself with weaker cards, don't be afraid to level them up once you've got other strong cards. Once you got something that can one-shot, you don't need to keep buffing it up till it's 10 attack, 10 power. Just get something that can one-shot, then upgrade some of your weaker stuff, some of the low-cost stuff, some of the stuff that's easy to get out, so that you don't get stuck with a whole hand of trash and get two-shotted before you can get to your Gek or your Mantis or whatever you're using. Make sure you pick up some cards specifically for their sigil, knowing you'll sacrifice it into other cards later on. This is where it can be actually great to pick up a pack rat. It's an easy card to get, but just having a full pack when you land on a backpack on the map, then just put it on something that's easy to play. But not the cards you're beefing up. Don't put it on your Gek or your Mantis, because you need the other sigils on that, so don't waste a pack rat on that. For example, let's say you're using the Gek deck. Put it on the tadpole or the rabbit, not the Gek, so that you can just freebie put that out. You can get a new pack item. Even if your pack is full, it's still useful to sometimes use an item, play the pack rat sigil card, and get a new item in your backpack. It might be better. Usually it's okay to do that, just to re-roll the item you have and maybe get something better. Now, good items to have in your backpack are the whiteout paint, which comes from the Kaycee's painting. The scissors. You can also pick up the knife from the pelt person if you save up your gold or teeth or whatever those things are, which I do recommend doing rather than buying pelts. I don't recommend ever buying pelts, as they just sit in your hand. You'll be drawing them and you won't be able to do anything with them. You won't be able to sacrifice them. It's just a big burden, except for the trapper boss. But really you don't need them for that, because you've got those frogs that when you kill them, they kill your guy and they give you a pelt. So just ignore the pelts. Ignore the pelts. Don't get caught trying to save up pelts for the trapper, because I did that. I've done that. And you're just carrying 10 pelts in your hand so you can wipe out the trapper, the one place where it's actually useful. Don't do that. Alright? So the good items to have are the whiteout, the scissors, and the magnifying glass. Even a squirrel can be a lifesaver, so that's why you don't want to put on the challenge that lowers your items in your backpack. The squirrels in the jars, they will not be aqua squirrels even if you have that challenge on. The whiteout paint works on the moon, but it will not work on totem buffs. It visually erases it, but apparently the buff still seems to take effect from the totems. So don't try to use it on that, it's not going to work. If you follow all of this, battles are likely to be pretty straightforward, so you probably won't have too much trouble getting up there to the Mantis deck or the Gek deck. It's only going to take you a couple runs and it's not going to be too crazy if you know all these tips. Alright, so another thing you should know is that you'll always draw at least one low cost card from the deck at the start, but I didn't find this to be very helpful as the one it gives you is still random. I also noticed that, let's say I'm using a super powerful Mantis or Gek, and I use it the first battle and maybe even use it the second battle, it starts putting it in the back. It puts it all the way down at the bottom because I just used it twice to one shot, and now the game's like putting it all the way at the bottom of the deck. So just keep that in mind. If you have a big deck, it's gonna get lost in there. But if you have a tiny deck, it's not gonna be that hard to get back to it. But it will put it in the back, especially if you're if you're spamming it and you're winning a lot, it's gonna start putting it in the bottom at least once or twice or a couple times before he starts coming out right off the rip again. So keep that in mind. It's not gonna let you just walk up on and like one shot everything. Alright, so there's one regular battle in particular I want to talk about. It really stands out to me as just insanely difficult and unfair. You need to be ready for it. At some point, you always run into a fight where your opponent will use almost nothing but bird cards and ravens. I even reloaded and picked another path trying to avoid this battle, and it was on the other side. But on that side I had a totem. So you're gonna have to fight it either way. The problem is the birds all have aerial buff. Everything the boss uses has aerial buff. And that's where they strike you directly. So you can't attack them until they are played into the second row. So the first round, you're either gonna have to one shot or you're gonna have to put in some aerial blockers to block those birds, because they're gonna come down and they're gonna hit you for 3, which that's gonna put you at 9 on tip scales, where you're 1 away from losing if you didn't one shot. After that, it's pretty much just a bird or a raven. Sometimes they even throw out both on a turn. So even if you take out the first two, the raven and the other bird, after the first turn, the others are just gonna come right down and finish you off. So the best thing is to either one shot, or if you can't do that, you need to have at least 1 or 2 aerial defense cards just for this battle alone. This really is the one to watch out for in my opinion, so just use whatever you got to get past it. Use your backpack items. Have those aerial defenses on. You gotta have at least 1 just for this battle. It doesn't really even matter for the rest of them, but if you don't have it for this one, you're gonna struggle. So this should get you through to the final challenge level and beating the mod. You can also use this strategy if you go for all the challenges at once, but this is very difficult, mainly solely because of this bear challenge. But I'm gonna give you some tips for that. So speaking of that, the best way to get past the bears are either the whiteout to erase their sigils and attack over them with an aerial sigil. You can cut one lane open and try to one-shot the boss with a strong card like the Gek. If you use the Mantis card here and try to blow out 3 bears at once, even if you succeed, The other 3 are just going to come down and wreck shop on you. You just simply won't be able to fill the whole bottom row with defense cards, especially for 2 turns. Maybe even 3, depending on how many bears you kill or don't kill. So you're gonna have to rely on one-shotting over them or one-shotting a lane. There's really no other way around that one. Lastly, without spoiling too much, the final challenge is special by replacing a boss fight. It's pretty straightforward though, so I'm not gonna spoil it by going into how to beat it. And in fact, in my opinion, it's actually easier. So that's not really one you gotta worry about. Alright, that's about it. I hope this helps and makes it a little easier to understand. I know there's a lot of tutorials out there, but I wanted to try to make one that was a little easier to follow, as some of them can be a little hard to wrap your head around. Well, good luck out there, and I'll try to answer anything that might have been left out in the comments. And with that, I'll see you next time.